All right, good evening. Welcome along then to another, what should have been Thursday Night Live with the lads. However, unfortunately, we are having technical issues. So we're going to record this and stick it on the channel for you anyway. And we'll discuss the matters we were going to talk about. Of course, with us tonight, we've got Jacob, Michael, Dino, Sean, and on his birthday, it's the Mad Mistake. Woo!
And that battle's done.
29. He's 29 today. Well done. Happy birthday to you. Right, so what we're going to do then, a few things we are going to discuss. I think we are going to start with the contract issue and who's been released this week. That's in the news. And we have got some questions which have come in on the on our social media via Sean. So this week then, it was announced by the club that we were going to let some certain players go. So, Sean, do you want to kick us off with this one?
Obviously, the players released. Baldwin, Lynch was on loan. Watmore, when you say about Watmore, he's had too many injuries. He's on a big wage. I think it was inevitable that was going to happen. Ozturk, I was a little surprised with Ozturk. And that's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think when he's come in, he does a job. And David Highmarsh on Twitter slagged him off constantly. He doesn't like him, but I think he's a decent defender. He's not the best, but I was a bit surprised with him. Ethan Robson, he was released as well. I don't think he was given a fair crack at the whip, but we wish him well in the future. And obviously the players, did you see the players offer new contracts? Do you want to talk about that, Philly, or just the ones that was released?
Well, whatever. We can go on to that as well. The ones, well, they've been offered terms, haven't they? It's not said that they've signed the contracts, though, has it?
No, it's just basically come out of the day. The club actually put a statement out saying that John McLaughlin's been offered a contract, Flanagan and obviously Chris Maguire, the three of them. I think, me personally speaking, I think on the McLaughlin situation, I think it's absolute certainty that he's going to be leaving. But I think it's the club's way of like saying, well, we have offered him a contract. I'm thinking, well, if you offered him a contract a few months ago, or before the turn of the year, you might have signed one. But now you've left it too late. He's going to leave, and we're going to get effectively nothing for a player who could have had $5 million for last season. So it's just sums up the club the way it is at the minute. Chris Maguire, I believe Chris Maguire will sign a new contract, and I think Flanagan will. So that's good news, I suppose. But the players released, Baldwin, Lynch, Watmore, Ozturk. I think, apart from Ozturk, I think it really wasn't a surprise. So good luck with the lads who's left. You know what I mean?
So, Mad Mistake, what do you think about the ones we've released?
Disappointed with Alan Ozturk, no nonsense defender. He had his own style of doing things, handballing and grappling people and pulling them to the ground. But he did a good job. He came in, I thought, after a shaky start when he first joined the club. He did quite a good job. And this season, I thought he hasn't done much wrong, to be fair. Ethan Robson, like Sean says, hasn't been given a fair crack at the whip. A lot of fans wanted to see him in the squad. I don't know why he hasn't been given a proper chance. Obviously, he doesn't fit Phil Parkinson's plans at all, which is a shame. Unless we don't know something about him that Phil Parkinson does. But I would like to have seen those two stay at the club. Duncan Watmore, again, I love him to bits. He's a player I wanted to see do really well when he came up the ranks. But injury prone, it's one of those things. Some players get loads of injuries throughout the career. He's one of the most intelligent footballers in England. Got his degrees, his father's high up. And at the end of the day, whatever he puts his mind to, he'll have a good career at. So I do wish him all the best in the future. I just wish he'd stayed injury prone. I wish he'd stayed away from injuries so that he could have been in the squad and played he would have been a better player altogether for me. So I'm disappointed about Watmore's outcome overall, but we have to release him because we can't afford his wages. At the end of the day, I don't think it will get any better than League One, unless he goes to prove us wrong. They're the ones. Baldwin, I thought Baldwin would be going anyway, but I wish him all the best. He's a nice bloke. He's got a lovely family, so I hope he does well wherever he goes. And who else is being released?
Lynch. Release was Baldwin. Lynch.
Yeah, Lynch is all right. He's had a couple of injuries, and I think we could probably do. I'd rather have kept Ozturk and kept Lynch out of the two anyway. So they're the ones that are leaving. I think I'd rather keep not keep.
So, Dino, the people who are leaving, what do you think?
To be honest, I wasn't shocked with Watmore because, like you say, he's been here too long. Hasn't done much. He's a nice bloke, but on the football pitch, he hasn't cut it. I mean, even in League One, he hasn't cut it. He doesn't even look like a League One player. I mean, that might be down to injuries, but I think it is time for him to move on, and hopefully he does well. Ethan Robson, it's one of them. What is he good? He mustn't be good enough because he's been out on loan how many times, and I'm sure he's 23. So the say he does it at Grimsby or wherever he's been on loan, but that's a league below.
Grimsby, I think.
Hopefully he has a good career. Lynch, I was a bit disappointed we were letting Lynch go because I thought he was solid. I still think he's got about 2 years in him. Who else was there?
Ozturk.
Release.
I was a bit good about Ozturk, to be honest, like, because even though like he is very error prone, he's solid when he wants to be. I mean, he's a good backup. If anything, he's a good backup. And if we're letting go of these two defenders, that means we've only got two defenders on the books now. Flanagan, if Flanagan signs a contract, and Willis. So they've got to have a plan to get about at least two centre backs in. And who else was there who's been released?
Well, it was Lynch, Ozturk, Ethan Robson, and Duncan Watmore.
Baldwin.
I think I've covered it, but I think most of them I agree with, but I don't agree with Lynch, and I don't agree with Ozturk. I really wish them two would have stayed because I still think. Was Lynch only on loan, or was he not?
On loan. He's on loan.
No, it was a
free transfer, wasn't it?
free signing.
It's a free transfer.
Yeah.
Lynch, was he not on loan from QPR?
No.
Not QPR.
No, I think he got released from QPR at the end of
And then we ended up signing him for a year.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think we should have kept a hold of Lynch, and definitely Ozturk for me.
All right, Michael, the people we've let go, what do you think?
Well, the only ones that I'm really disappointed with, I think, probably is Ozturk. I actually like Baldwin. I don't know what it is. I think that I'm probably the only one who feels this way. I think people remember Baldwin because of that 5-4 Coventry game, and I think before then he was actually a really solid defender. But obviously since then, I think it looked like you could see on the Sunderland Side documentary, it looks like playing for Sunderland's too big for him. And in which case, if we're going to try and get promoted, we need to try and push on and get people who can handle playing for us. So fair enough on that front. Ozturk, sorry, David, I know you don't like him, but I'm not going to agree with you on that. I think that Ozturk, obviously he's not the quickest, he's not the most technical player in the world, but I think in this league, I would have definitely kept him for the squad. But, that's by the by, he's gone now. Who's the other three? Lynch, touch and go for me. I'm not too devastated with let Lynch go. I think we could get somebody better. Who's the other? Ethan Robson. The funny thing is, I've only seen him play 2 or 3 times, and to me, he hasn't stood out in any of those games. But I think Dino might have made the point, or touched on it, certain earlier shows, that if you're not going to be ready for Sunderland in League One, chances are you're not going to make it yet. So if he's not ready, if he wasn't ready to step up, then fair enough. And for Duncan Watmore, for me, I thought Watmore was a player who should have been storming League One, really, but his injuries have killed him. He just doesn't look like the player he was. The wages he was on, you're not getting a good enough return for the wages that you were paying, which in fairness would have been Premier League wages, but now it was definitely the right decision for all parties to go on. But Watmore especially, I don't think you'll meet anyone who seems a more genuinely lovely lad than Duncan Watmore. So I'm sure everyone on here will wish him the best of luck for the future.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Jacob?
Yeah, Watmore doesn't surprise me. I mean, the quality wasn't there, and injuries let him down. I mean, like Michael said, such a genuine nice guy, but we've got to look forward to the future in terms of better players we can bring in that position out wide. Alim Ozturk, I think he would have made a decent squad player, but I think like taking him off the wage bill, I think will free up someone who we can get in a lot better at centre back. But Joel Lynch does surprise me. I think with him having championship experience, I thought we would have done better to keep him, and I thought we would have offered him a new deal. And the fact, I personally don't mind Joel Lynch. I rate him at times in some of the games he's played. I still feel like with Tom Flanagan, who we've decided to keep, I still fear watching him, like especially in latter stages of the season, like he's got mistakes in him. But I'm just hoping, like, the players who we have offered new contracts to, in Chris Maguire and John McLaughlin, it all depends on how good these new contracts are, whether they sign. But just fingers crossed, it's all just a massive waiting game at the moment.
Well, for me personally, I think Ozturk is the biggest disappointment, and purely because, you know, I would have picked him even over, you know, Tom Flanagan, I think. But I think what's happened with the people they've let go, for me, reading between the lines, I think the squad is purely being based on cost, on what we can afford and what we can't. I don't think that it's now down to Parkinson to go, well, I want to keep him, I want to keep him, and I want to keep him. I think it's a case of up above saying, this is how it's going to be. We can't afford him, and him, so they're going to have to go, and you're going to have to work within these parameters of what we can afford. And to be fair, I know, you know, I'm the last one to slag Stuart Donald off and what have you, and people are saying, you know, we've offered new contracts to the likes of McLaughlin and stuff like that, but these contracts might be shit, and it just the fact that they can then, it might be a shit contract what they've offered to them, but at least they can put it out in the press and say, well, we've offered a contract, new terms to McLaughlin, but he's turned it down. But it might be a case that it's such a shit deal, McLaughlin's not going to and others are not going to take them anyway. Anybody's any views on that?
Flip the coin though. For all we know, it's a banging contract. That's why you get what more off the books, because you're saving 10 grand there or whatever wage he was on, and you up their contracts. And then when them saying no, because obviously you might want to go up the championship with Blackburn, obviously John McLaughlin's 30 odd, he wants to play at the highest level possible at this age in his career. Did I say age there? Yeah, at this age of his career. And then everyone goes, oh, Stuart Donald would have offered him a shit one. For all we know, it's a really good one, but John McLaughlin's mind's already made up. He wants to go to Blackburn, and there's nothing you can do about it. Why would he want to play in League One for Sunderland again when he could go to the Championship and play with Blackburn in the Championship? You can flip it both ways. It just depends on what your prerogative is. Are you so against Donald that if he doesn't sign it, oh, Donald's offered him now?
No, but the thing what people's got issues with is this: Donald come out and says, "Oh, well, I'm not selling this goalkeeper for anything less than 5 million," and then all of a sudden, a year later, how much again? Fuck all. So that's what people's issues is with.
But then, say we sell them for 5 million, everyone would have been going off it saying, "Oh, we'll just sell the best keeper."
Well, no, I wouldn't have. Because you're getting 5 million. I wouldn't have said no. Because you're getting 5 million.
I guarantee loads of people would have been kicking off. Loads of people would have kicked off.
I think with John McLaughlin, it all comes down to how his life is, whether he's settled in the northeast, whether his wife's settled, whether his children are settled. I think it all depends on his family life. At that age of 33, you don't be going around the countryside. I mean, Blackburn. Is he going to settle in Blackburn? We don't know. If he's settled in the northeast, I think he'll sign the contract. If he's not settled, he'll leave.
But and John McLaughlin's he's never actually stayed at a club throughout his contract. Also, his contract he's let it run down and he's left. So maybe he's on the other side of it. It's a case of, well, he just likes to stay someplace for a couple of years, then he likes to move on. But
everybody grows up, though, don't they? Everybody grows up at some point in life.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Do you not feel that? I feel with, like, especially in League One, goalkeepers are like easily replaceable. It's about getting in the right players at the other end of the pitch to get your goals to win promotion.
But let's not forget, we have Lee Burge, who is a competent enough player to step up. But the point is for me that, you know, I do agree with Dino that I think if you're going to free up Duncan Watmore's wages and you're going to free up, so you've got Watmore, Lynch, Baldwin, Ozturk and Robson, that's probably going to be at least 20, 25k there across a lot of them, because Watmore's wages would have been that high. But for me, John Flanagan there, John McLaughlin, like, for me, that situation is absolutely inexcusable, because you can say, oh, but we did offer them a deal. Well, you offered them a deal about 9 months too bloody late. You should have done this as soon as that summer transfer window was over. One of the first things we should have done was tie John McLaughlin down to a new contract.
Exactly.
And I know me and Sean had a talk with on Twitter, a bit on Twitter about it. And I think there was a point made that it was like Madja. And it's like, well, Madja was kind of a different situation, that Madja's contract was left by the previous regime who hadn't bothered to sort it out. And therefore, while we didn't cover ourselves in glory with how we sorted that contract out, obviously, because he went, but that was also kind of a mess left to them. Whereas this one, Donald's regime is pure. McLaughlin is a Donald player. He's been signed under Donald's regime. Now, and again, like Sean said, if you're going to claim that he's going to be worth $5 million, then what's the first thing you should be doing? Tying him down to a new contract. And for all we know, if you believe what the press said, and yes, in this instance, I do believe the press, what they've said, McLaughlin seemed to want to stay. There was constant questions about his contract. You can only sign what's in front of you. You can't sign what's not there. That, to me, unless I'm reading it wrong, that implies he wants to stay. Why wasn't that sorted? That's ridiculous. We've had about 9 months to sort that contract out. We should not be waiting until mid to late June to get the bottom of it. This should have been in September.
Michael, here's one. You have to remember when obviously Jack Ross got the sack and then Phil Parkinson came in. In Phil Parkinson's first game in charge, he dropped John McLaughlin for Lee Burge. So he was probably thinking at that point, does the club really want me here for the future? Like, club is simply going to let my contract run down.
But Jacob, you still had a month and a half from when the summer window finished to when Ross was sacked. You still had about a 6-week window. Why wasn't that sorted in that period?
Why doesn't the manager, the owner, the chairman, when players get down to last year, offer them a contract, they're not going to sign it, sell them to see they're going for sale. Then when it gets sent to Bosman and then it's leave for free, at least you're going to get something. I mean, McLaughlin was linked with Millwall last summer. If you're going to offer 2-3 million, tap it. Look, now we're getting nothing from them. And obviously, 2-3 million now in this league is massive. You know what I'm saying? And now,
especially in this climate, it is, yes. In this climate, so, there's barely going to be any transfer fees going around at the moment. It's the thing what's happening at club for too long, like where players are just running the contracts down and they're leaving for free, and it's just an issue what we just can't seem to even before Donald had a short before that. It shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening.
All right then. Well, on the Stuart Donald thing, right? A point I made to bring up tonight anyway, and I only look at this from a point of view of like myself, the situation I find myself in at the moment where we have no income at all, right? So the last thing I would do now is say, go out tomorrow and buy a brand new car, because I don't know what's going to be happening. This could go on for another 12 months, might not have any income. So why would anybody expect Stuart Donald to invest anything at all into the club, right? When, you know, they could go a full season with no revenue coming in. It's bad business. It's like, you know, it could effectively send the club under when the uncertainty of not knowing what's happened. So for him to put money in the club or spend money when you don't know when the next crowd revenue is going to come in,
well,
seems silly.
Philly, they've been talking about, the AFL's been talking with the government about September, getting supporters back into the ground. So that's got to be obviously a positive thing if it's going to be September-ish time.
Yeah, but let's say we've got this September thing, right? I still wouldn't go out and buy a car tomorrow on that understanding that, it could be September, because, you know, I very much doubt there'll be crowds in the ground. Certainly this year, it's going to be next year before crowds are allowed into football stadiums, I reckon. So, but like I said, it's uncertainty in it.
Well, we don't know. As like you say, we don't know. But I think we'll be in a lot quicker than what people think. I think with face masks on.
Do you trust the EFL though to put like the safety measures in place, considering how poorly they handled in like taking so long to end the season?
Not really.
No. You really trust them with that sort of stuff. It took them they've had constant meetings about postponing a decision to another meeting. Come on, this is the EFL. They're
Really going to ask I've got 4 questions. Can I start with some of the questions to get them rattled off?
Sean, you may ask a question if you wish.
No, I'm just getting them out of the way then, mate. Just a quick one, lads. It's off Craig Scott off Twitter. It just says, who do you fancy to go up from the League 2 playoffs? Exeter, Colchester, Northampton or Cheltenham? Do you know? Just any of the 4. Just
them 4 again for us, mate, please.
Exeter, Colchester, Northampton, and Cheltenham, mate.
I'm going to say Colchester because Colchester have been in League 1 and Championship before, so I'm going to say Colchester.
My mistake.
Exeter.
Nice. Michael.
Exeter, so we can go to St James's Park next season.
Michael? So we get Jacob?
Colchester, just another southern ground for me to tick off next season.
Last but not least, Philly?
I've got a soft spot for Exeter because I met some friends when we was on holiday, but purely for travelling away, I think Northampton's probably about the furthest north out of those. So I would go with Northampton Cobblers.
Right, I'm going to go for Exeter because I checked the tables earlier on and I think they were just outside of the automatics. So I think I'll go for them. Right, next question.
Hang on. That's a hell of a way trip for you, though. That's Sean, all the way down to Exeter.
I love the long away trips.
There's an airport, though. There's an airport. Just fly.
I love the 5 and 6 hour ones.
Yeah.
Right. Next question is off Jack Moyes of Twitter. What do you think of the players being released? Obviously, we've talked about that. And how do you feel about the ones offered a deal? I think we've covered that already, haven't we? But I asked the question anyway because he asked us. So, Philly?
Of the ones offered a deal, obviously I'd like McLaughlin to stay. Well, yeah, all of them really. Flanagan. Scowen's been offered a deal though as well, hasn't he?
Scowen,
he's accepted it, haven't they? I think he's accepted it.
Yeah. Apparently, but it hasn't been confirmed. But there was seeing somebody today now.
And what's the script with Bailey Wright?
I was going to say that's
up in the air whether he's going to come back.
That's another one to see that they've offered him a deal. They've offered him a deal to come back. So that's good news.
What did Jacob say earlier?
What's that?
What did Jacob say just there?
It's it all depends on like whether his heart's in it. Like he has been offered the contract, but it's just purely whether he decides he wants to come back or not.
Is this Bailey Wright you're on about?
Bailey Wright, yeah.
I mean, he's for me. He's the one out of any player that I'd be over the moon if they've got him tied down because he was probably he was the one we missed the most when he got injured. I think.
Yeah. Well, especially if you have someone like it. Well, ultimately, when you look at the players that we need to sign the likes of Bailey Wright. That is a must for them to come back. And I don't care what anyone says. Next season, the expectation's promotion. However we achieve it, I don't give two shits. Get Bailey Wright, get him into that side, and get us to stop conceding stupid goals.
Yeah, in that particularly that back three we played at the turn of the year, like Bailey Wright was the heart and soul of it. Like he was basically keeping Jordan Willis and Tom Flanagan in line. And I think he's got capabilities of potentially even getting the captain's armband next season. I think he's a top defender for that league.
My mistake, and Dino, last two things, thoughts on that?
I think we need all 5 to stay. And I think Donald at some point has to decide what's more important, to be cautious and save his money or take a chance and win the league next season. What's going to be more important? Is he going to get more money for the club in the Championship or mid-table League One next season? For me, you've got to go and go for it next season and try and get into the Championship. Have to get all those players signed.
Can I quickly jump in there though and say, look at Leeds United on the verge of Champions League and all that. Went for it, risked it, and it didn't work, and they ended up way down in League One and took them. Well, they're still not back in the back up in the Premier. So it's
16
League
years ago.
One, go for it, Champions League of League One.
Do you know?
Just the same, really. Obviously, Maguire, keep him. Probably got one more good season in him. McLaughlin, obviously keep him at all costs. Flanagan, if he stays, he goes. I'm not too bothered. He's all right on his day, but he's very flappy Flanagan at times.
Flanagan.
Fantastic Flanagan.
And then the lads who got released, the only one I disagree with is really Ozturk. To be honest, I thought Ozturk's a big one, and probably Joe Lynch, and that's it.
Right, well, quickly, I'll just say about the ones released. I'll say Baldwin, he tried his best, but he just wasn't good enough. Lynch, I don't think he really got a strong one in the team. I think he got that bad injury down Portsmouth that affected him. I think Watmore, lovely lad, been a good servant for 7 years, but he was on a big ridge. He had to go. Like to see what the lad says. Ozturk, I was very disappointed with that. Ethan Robson wasn't given a chance, but was he good enough? We'll never know. The ones offered a deal, I think Maguire and Flanagan on sign, but unfortunately, I think McLaughlin is going to join Blackburn. Right. Next question is off
Did Jacob answer there as well? I don't know.
It says, yeah. Right, 2 secs. All right. This is off Joe off Twitter. He basically says, does something need to be done from the fans in regard to a Donald Out protest? I like the idea of setting up a GoFundMe page so fans that want Donald Out can go put a few quid in and get a huge flag stating Donald Out for the rotor end for the game.
Yeah, I've seen this recently. It's interesting how he wants to do it, but it's all about sending the right message out. If he's just like wanting just like people to give money towards it, it could give the complete opposite reaction. It's about how we do it in the right way.
Dino?
I mean, what was this the thing where he says every fan should give £1,000 or something, and it'll add up in 90 million? Not everyone can just spare £1,000 out and out. I mean, it's an idea, but I'm not being funny. I mean, leave the finances stuff to the rich people, not the people who obviously you would love to think you could take your own club over, but it's very unrealistic in my opinion, and just leave it to the pigging millionaires who are out there, and we just stay as fans. Simple as that.
Philly?
Well, on that subject of everybody puts £1,000 in, and I think it was going to generate something like 90 million or something.
Yeah,
I think it's naive to think that if you had 90 million, the club still loses money, right? So it's not as straightforward as just, oh, we'll all invest in it. The club still doesn't make a profit, so somebody somewhere has still got to continue to put money in, and all this trying to organise something with a Donald Out thing is, you can organise all you want, but at the end of the day, it's down to him, right? He owns the club, right? So all this, sack the board or Donald Out or whatever is, if he decides to go, he goes. When he wants to sell, it's not a case of come on, let's get him out. He owns the club, so it's up to him if he stays or if he goes. So it's all nonsense for me anyway. There you go.
My mistake.
I agree with you, Philly, but if I won the lottery last night, which I haven't checked yet, I would gladly give him £1,000, maybe even 2.
Shopping street.
What's happening with the rest of it?
Nice.
Can I quickly just say something as well? If you wanted to do a Donald Out protest, right, and everyone agreed with it, I mean, obviously Newcastle wanted their Mike Ashley out for years, haven't they? But they never done out about it. It'd be the tiniest protest to say, oh, don't turn up the stadiums, but they're still turning up the stadium. The only way you're going to get an owner out is if you don't go to a single match until he's gone, and that's everyone. Because if there's empty seats, he's getting no revenue, and so you'll have to sell. So that's the only way it would happen.
There's empty seats. There's going to be empty seats all season, I think.
Do you reckon?
We won't see fans in the stadiums at the start of next season. It will be like a couple of months, I reckon.
No, I thought he was meaning more about the season ticket sales, because I think that's going to plummet from 24, 25, 26,000, whatever it was. That's going to be half next season, I believe, anyway. I think.
What's the rumours on 2 or 3 interested buyers? What's all that about?
I've heard there's a couple of rumours, but now concrete. There's nothing concrete, my mistake, but
couple of Saudis are available now, apparently.
No, like you see, going back to the question of Joe, I think it was somebody inboxes me last night on Twitter, and I thought it wasn't a bad idea, and I retweeted it and a few things I had in people's messages and saying we need to do this, we need to do that. But as Philly says, it's probably a little bit unrealistic. I think fans are just trying to get together and try and do something. But I mean, somebody said, well, we're not going to raise 90 million because there's kids' seats, and they're not going to put, So I know that's an idea, but I can't say that, man. Like, I mean, we're just going to have to hope that something happens, and this next season sort of changes, respects to how it has been the last 2 seasons, really. You know what I mean? Michael, what do you say on that?
not really to add. I think that I think it's good that fans are finding a voice, mind, because I think it's good that we're actually not accepting, we're not accepting being stuck in League One, and nor should we. It's embarrassing that this club's in the division for another season. So, whether, like I said, though, the realistic aspect of it, asking people to pump money in, like Jacob said, it's not going to convince people, especially in times like this when every penny that someone could have is going to be vital for them in an unstable time for the world. When if you just forget about football for a minute, so I think that if something of a protest is going to happen, it's going to have to be properly organised, and there's going to be a lot of thought and planning coming into it. Unfortunately, though, when you're going to have protests like that, there's an issue that you're going to have some fans that are just going to turn up to a protest just for the sake of just get pissed and just cause a bit of trouble. So that it's
scratching.
It's always the answer one way or another.
I know what you're saying. I think there's.
I didn't win the lottery. I didn't win. Sorry, mate.
Damn you, man.
Thank you, Terry.
I've got one last question for the that's the what wants to fire away.
Go on, then.
Yeah. So for Reece Link, and he basically says, "These all agree that if we keep him Parkinson this season, it's perfect chance for him to implement his own style and team with so many out of contract. Also, do you think the wage cap and 20 player squad size? I don't know how many means that, like."
What was it? Repeat that last bit of the question again.
And what about the people that the contracts with a wage cap with a 20 player squad size? I think you meant. Was that a new rule was coming in with the size of the squads or something? And the wage cap.
Yeah.
Well, yesterday, I'm sure they made about 7 subs or something. So it's not just 3 subs anymore. I mean, yesterday.
5. It's 5 or 7. Yeah.
So it's a 20-man squad. So it would normally be like a 60-man squad. What would it be normally?
23.
No, like to take a game, you'd have your 5 subs and you would have your 11 players, and that was it. But now you can have like 9 subs.
No, that's
something
right.
like
7
that.
subs, and they've moved it to 9.
Yeah, let's be completely honest here. If Parkinson still doesn't make subs till the 80th minute, and how many subs we have, it doesn't make one bit of difference. Parkinson. Look, I mean, I don't know what you guys think on Parkinson. I think we kind of discussed it before, but I would back, providing he's backed, and I don't mean go out and just splash loads of money on transfers. We've just released a number of players on wages. I do expect Sunderland to go out in the free agent market, and there's bound to be not just Marcus Maddison, who's the obvious name, even though we probably won't get him because we won't show any ambition to get him. If he wanted to go to the Championship, that's fair enough. I'm not expecting us to beat Championship clubs to a signature, but I mean, I'm not expecting to go out and splash that on transfer fees. There's hardly anyone that's going to splash money on transfer fees. But it doesn't mean we can't have discussions with free agents and all that. So Parkinson, if he's backed in the free agent market, and we actually go out and know what we want to get, it depends how proactive we are. It depends, because I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but I'm just quite sick of Sunderland always being reactive to situations in the window. I understand you've got to cut your cloth. You've got to make sure that you don't potentially risk going under or in serious financial problems. But come on, so if Parkinson could potentially implement his own style, but it depends who he's going to bring in and who he's going to lose.
Yeah, it was at the same that because it was Dano did this year, didn't you?
I think my view on it is also, I feel like Parkinson, when you heard him speak, like giving his thoughts on the season with that interview he did on the club website, he's still himself is like up in the air, like whether he's going to be like offered to stay next season. Although he wants to, it's all depends on what Stuart Donald like has for like the ambition going forward.
Yeah. My mistake.
What was the question? I've got no idea.
Too many more.
What is all talking about?
Just about Parkinson, just answer the Parkinson thing, because the 20-man squad thing, just figure that out. It's basically off 3 things. He said it's just about Parkinson. If we're keeping him, it's a good chance to obviously implement his own style with the team this season. I think it's basically, do you think Parkinson should stay, or do you think
Like, he's obviously going to stay, but his comment the other day was, I want to buy players that want to play for Sunderland Football Club. I mean, Howard, come on. Is that all you've got to say? Every single player you buy for a football club should want to play for your football club. Never mind saying all that crap. He's had a good half of the season to implement his style. Style came in, went to pot. He got a go and went through a nice phase. Then it went to pot. So has he not got a plan B? next season he's going to show us what plan B is, because at the moment he just seems like one-dimensional to me. So we'll see what happens anyway. The jury's out.
Philly, what's your feelings?
When you said, see, for me, he's got to be given another chance anyway. Now, I get what you're saying. It was a bad start, and then whether or not that was the McGeady thing, and then we picked up, we had a great run, and then like the mad mistake said there, it then dropped off again. But I think it was only the last 3 games or something where we had a lull, because it was still all right. 4 games then, but we was we was doing all right, and it was 4 games, and I think we could have picked up at the end of the season and gone on to at least definitely at a playoff place without a doubt.
I think that the biggest, some of the detracting factors about Parkinson for me, and I've mentioned them before, both on this and on my own channels, is that he's not. I'm getting sick of saying it. It's not just Phil Parkinson. Jack Ross is guilty of this before him. They always start out, whenever they come in, that they're making subs at ridiculous, like early times when they know something isn't working, and then for some reason they gradually regress and are afraid to do that. Why? So, like Parkinson, never seen. What's the earliest Parkinson tends to make a substitution? Is it like 70 minutes or something?
I'll tell you what, Mike. I think it also sums up when you said like managers like to make subs at later times in the game, that what they must be thinking, what I have on the bench like must not be good enough. Like the team I put out must be the best players in the squad, and we have to rely on them for as much as possible.
Wasn't the first 3 games of Parkinson's tenure where he didn't make any substitutions? There was a few games where he didn't make a substitution at all.
No,
it was just players for full 90 minutes, and that was it.
I just think that some of the other factors about Parkinson is that if you just look at the 2 league games against Gillingham, we dropped 3 points there because we should have got, so whether you think we deserved it or not, we should have held on down there for at least a draw, and we should have held on up here for a win. Now, I'm not going to on Parkinson because I think that's on the players, but if you look at if you remember that down at Gillingham, I obviously had a 5-minute rant that the Mags loved, but you've got to remember that
being in the stands there, it was awful.
Well, that's what I mean. But Jigger, there, you'll know yourself then. Sunderland, in no capacity should a Sunderland manager go out with Gillingham and set his team up to not lose. That is absolutely criminal. There's so many games where Parkinson needs to be a bit more proactive. I get that. I know Phil made the point. I think that obviously the circumstances of this season were unique, to say the least. At the end of the day, we can't necessarily write off the season because Coventry and Rotherham have ultimately gone up, and you're going to have 4 teams that have another chance to go up through the playoffs. So Parkinson ultimately this season has failed. That was what was he brought in to do? Get the club promotion? Has he done that? No. But for next season, if Parkinson has done it before, so I think if we can't do it with Parkinson, then Jesus Christ. I think that I'm Parkinson in at the minute, but we need to have a clear plan of what we're going to go out, go and get it, and for once set your stall ahead of others. Don't just wait behind everybody else, because I'm sick of it.
Dino, you've had your say on this, haven't you? I think.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, sorry, mate. I thought you had earlier on.
Just what Michael said. Really, it's the substitutions what bothers me. It really does. The substitution thing where, I mean, like, look at when Scowen first came in, and we were like, where's Scowen, and he never played. And like, you could see like some people were struggling in the middle. Like he'd bring Ledbetter on instead of Scowen, or like it was just little things where you think
of plan B, isn't it?
What, like, wasn't just a plan B, it was just substitutional. Like, you've got Wyke there, and everyone's saying get Wyke off, he's done nothing, and he'll keep Wyke on and not bring like Lafferty on or something. It was at the start of Lafferty when he first came in. Wyke done nothing, and he wouldn't bring Lafferty on. For God forbid if he brought Lafferty on, or go 2 up top. And it was the same with Grigg as well. He wouldn't bring Grigg on. He was on the bench, but he wouldn't bring him on. But Wyke's done nothing all game, so the substitutions was the main one for me.
It was like at Bristol Rovers, he brought Greg on for like 4 minutes. What's he going to do? Go and score a hat-trick at 5 minutes? Like,
that's the thing, right? If he's got rid of Lafferty, but he keeps White next season, I'm done.
Yeah,
we forgot to talk about Lafferty, actually. I forgot about Lafferty.
But the thing is with Lafferty, wasn't Lafferty just on loan?
No,
it was just a contract to the end of the season.
It was like a half-season contract.
Right, but Charlie White still has a contract. doesn't he?
Yeah.
So it's cheaper to let Lafferty go than it is to get rid of Wyke. And this is what I'm saying at the start, where I think a lot of it is governed by finances, simple as that. I would rather have Lafferty than Wyke, but if finances say different, that's what we're stuck with.
Yeah, but in the long run, isn't it more important to get promoted next season than stay in League One?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got, I've had this discussion many times on Twitter with people. I've had arguments, plenty of arguments about this matter with Parkinson. And I'm, in a sense, you could see I'm a bit hypocritical because I was calling for Ross's head last season, and a lot, and I would say that he wasn't going to get us promoted, this, that, and the other. But with Philip Parkinson, I think the way you got to look at it, he's got 3 promotions with both Bradford, Colchester, so he's got that in his CV. So that's what I'm clinging on to, the fact that I think he's got experience. He knows he shouldn't. He's got a full pre-season now. He should know what he needs for next season. If he brings the right players in, I mean, when he first took over, to be fair, I mean, he went that bad. One where we did, I think, won 1 game in about 11 or something, and all of us were saying, Jesus, what is going on here? But when McGeady went, we brought Billy Wright, and he, when he came into the back, we started to keep clean sheets. We started to look like a good start. We started to grind results out. So anyway, I'm on the fence, and I don't really like to be like that. But I think if he was to be sacked, you couldn't say, well, it's he has failed in his job, and now all you'll say, well, I think Philly said last time, well, there was still 8 games left. But I think people's got to clutch at that and see that's just excuses. We have failed again, and if Parkinson's got to take a percentage of the blame, you know what I mean? And this, the games, the Bolton at home, the Bristol Rovers game, the 2-2 draw at home, and we conceded in the 95th minute. You know what I mean? That these are the results. What's cost us.
Exactly.
But if he was to be relieved, I couldn't argue with it. But I just think there's something there telling us that if we keep him and he gets the right players, and we can get the promotion next season. We can deliver promotion.
The main problem I had with Parkinson, right, when he got to the January transfer window, you would have thought he brought in players that would come in and make an impact on the side, straight away. He'd throw them straight into the starting lineup, but it was all about he didn't want to disrupt the rhythm we had with that run we went on. The only one he really threw in straight from the off was Bailey Wright when he dropped Ozturk at Tranmere and he threw him.
But why would you change a winning team though? You know what I mean? So because if he'd have chucked people in and we was on a winning streak, then so why would you change a winning team? So I don't see a problem in what he did in January.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair. I think it's just that in certain situations when things are going very well, don't wait until
you need teams were going to tactically figure us out at some point.
That's what I mean, yeah. And ultimately, that would have been his job then to go and try and devise a different tactic. Like we said earlier about the White Lafferty thing, I would much rather have kept Lafferty than White. But obviously, if finances are governing that we have to keep it's cheaper to keep White. Fair enough, I can understand that. But if we don't go out and sign a striker in the free agent market, because there'll be a striker in the free agent market who's better than White. That's a completely different scenario.
Isn't the Blackpool striker free now? The Blackpool striker.
Yes.
What's he called? I can't see.
We've got a really long second name.
We'll learn how to pronounce it eventually. But with strikers, especially I don't want to be looking at strikers that are in the free agent market. I want to be looking at ones that you could pay a decent amount for, and you get what it's worth.
Yeah,
there's a reason they're out of contract.
We've done that with Greg. We paid $4 million for Greg, and look what he done.
Yeah, but Greg's cycle that was just an idiotic decision.
Would you sell Greg if we could get a striker what was going to be better? If we get he's $1 million or $1.5 million off Greg and bring somebody else going to bang the goals.
I'll answer your question with a question. Yes, I would absolutely sell Will Grigg if we got money, but can you see anybody who's realistically going to take Will Grigg that'll pay money?
Nah.
I think the owners are too scared to sell Grigg as well because they don't want to lose the profit money because he is the most expensive League One striker ever.
I think get profit on someone who can score 2 goals.
What you're missing here for me is the fact that it's governed by finances. So regardless, saying about surely there's a better striker out there than White, we could get him in and what have you, right? We still have White's wages to pay. You can say, well, we've got what more off the books and stuff like that. It could be that the people who got off the books, they've got them off, for us to survive, rather than think about getting more people in. Because at the moment, where is the revenue going to come from? Because that's where I think it's all governed by. We'd all love a great team and better strikers and what have you, but I don't think we're in that position. I think it's finances what are governing what we have and who we.
But then, what's the solution? No, what's the solution? I mean,
Michael,
the waiting game now.
If we've got 20 million put to one side, this is the time to use it. Donald's put 20 million to one side. You know what I mean? And we're in a bad situation at the minute. With, you know, like see that Felicia said, there's no supports coming in. There's not much Sky money. You know what I mean? That 20 million. If you can just bring that back to the club.
Donald with money?
Does it ultimately do this?
No, definitely not.
Sorry, Jay.
I don't trust that. I wouldn't trust him.
Does it ultimately do this club? Does it ultimately do this club any good though to languish in League One?
Nothing. No.
That's
what I'm saying. So if they want to sell the club on, you know what I mean, and get that money, invest it in the team. Like as Michael says earlier on, let's get the players we want and get promoted. Then he can get his money and be gone. He can get his profit.
Well, lads, what about this? If we've got some money coming in, actually, according to selling Barley Mumba to Norwich. This is what I'm hearing. Like, I mean, we're getting 500,000 or whatever it's going to be for Barley Mumba. Yeah. I mean, that's a good
point. That day, you know, what's your feelings on that, lads, about Barley Mumba? That's a good.
Sad, very talented player. He started well when Jack Ross first came in, but for some reason, like, he didn't want to put him in the squad for like the remainder of the games that season. And I just feel like he's so comfortable on the ball. Like when he gets the ball, like he always wants to drive forward with it, make things happen. In that Checker Trade Trophy run in the 2018-19 season, some of the games he played was absolutely brilliant. But like he even played it right back a few times as well. So just like a great squad player to have. Talented. He's had a few, England caps, I think, at under 20 level. Yeah, so just a superb player on his day. Like, has a bright future ahead of him. If he goes to Norwich, I wish him all the best, but I wish we could have done so much more to keep him.
My mistake. What your friends on Bally Bumba got
Bally
Bumba.
It's the same as Ethan Robson, isn't it? Phil Parkinson doesn't rate him, otherwise we'd have played him. We played him once at right back. Right back, really? Phil Parkinson? What are you thinking? Let's face it, if a new owner comes in before the season starts, will Phil Parkinson even still be here next season? Probably not.
Yeah, do you think he'll be gone like my mistake?
If a new owner comes in, new owner will bring his own manager in.
I
like Phil Parkinson.
I agree with that. I'm saying, but do you think if we still got Stuart Donald, do you think Parkinson will still be here?
I think it will be. I think Parkinson's a puppet to Stuart Donald. He'll do whatever Stuart Donald wants. Parkinson puppet.
Right, Philly on Bally Mumba.
On Bally Mumba, he had, you know, he showed signs of promise, but like the Mad Mistake said, if the manager doesn't rate him, he isn't going to get played. And then selling him on and getting $500,000. The thing is with it is, you know, you're all saying, well, there's $500,000, we can invest that. If I sold one of my assets at the moment, right, and got X amount of pounds in for it, right, I wouldn't spend it on anything because it's uncertain times and you don't know where the next penny's coming from. So, and I just think it's the same with the club. £500,000 coming in and everybody can go, well, we've got $500,000 from him. But until you know where your next penny's coming from,
Billy,
you know, you hang on to that.
What do you think? How many? Let's face it, right? If there's no football in League One on TV next season, and the only way of watching football is live streams, and you pay £10 to £15 for every single game, how many Sunderland fans throughout the whole of the world are going to stream that game live?
Loads.
Well, there'll be loads. But there'll also be people who have your fire sticks and all that and what have you, who get
should be locked up all of them.
Get it for free. Yeah, I agree with you. They should be locked up, right? But the thing is it's still not going to bring in. It won't bring in enough revenue. It just won't.
They know.
All the other clubs are getting League One. We'll have the biggest revenue in League One than any other club.
Yep, I agree.
You brought the question up, didn't you? What's your views, mate?
The Barley Mumba thing for me, I mean, clearly Jack Ross didn't rate him, and clearly Parkinson doesn't rate him. So I don't know what it is, because when we've seen him play, he does look a bit lightweight on the ball, but he's only 18 years old, 17 years old. I mean, that's a young kid to play in League One. But the problem I had with Barley Mumba is when he went out on loan, he went to South Shields. I mean, that's a very low standard of like league for an 18-year-old. You think if he's going to be something amazing, you'd think a League One club or maybe a Championship club will give him a run out. Not a team like South Shields, because like obviously South Shields is on its way up, but if Barley Mumba is that good, I'm sure a League One or Championship or League Two club would have came in.
That's a really good point, that Dane. Like,
that's
really good point.
another if we were to get new owners in, they need to invest money in like our academy right now, because it's being dragged into the ground at the moment. Like
Absolutely.
teams we had last season, they were just getting battered week in, week out, and that's not their fault. It's just about, I don't know whether it's the type of coaches we have at the club, whether it's just like the lack of confidence, the players we bring through the system, how they're like trained as footballers. It's just something's not right, like through the youth system we have right now. And like this week, I think was it Jordan Henderson? Obviously, he celebrated his 30th birthday. Just looking through his moments, he's just a pure representation of our club. Like someone coming through, and he's got a Champions League winners medal, and he's going to get a Premier League winners medal as well. We need to look at that for inspiration in the future if we're going to rebuild our academy.
See, with the academy, I think we just look at athletic people, not actually talented footballers. I mean, if you're athletic, you can basically turn an athletic person into a footballer, but not the greatest. They're just like they can run up and down and they can do the basics. They don't look at actually talented footballers who can. They might not be the most athletic, but they're mint on the ball. They can take a player on. Yeah, I just feel like most footballers these days are all the same. There's no difference about them.
Right,
they're all fast, they're all strong.
Can I quickly jump in, because we've probably got about 10 minutes left, and I want to bring a few points up. I want to try and get in before we wrap it up. Firstly, Jim Rodwell. Now we chatted about this before we came on air. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but some of the lads, some of you were saying that the club have reinstated direct debits, which people have cancelled, and Jim Rodwell has issued a statement as he apologising.
Have I
got that right?
No, that's correct, Billy. Like you see, and people who cancelled the season cards, right? And I've been talking to a few people on Twitter. They showed the screenshot the photos as well. The club has reinstated the direct debits. I think it was only people with Barclays though. It was only with the Barclays Bank. So
it happened to me. Because it wasn't last week, it was the week before. We were talking about the season ticket debacle, weren't we? And people like saying, "Oh, should I cancel? Should I not?" Before we came on the stream, I cancelled mine. I physically done it and cancelled it. And when you mentioned it there, I looked back onto my direct debits before we came on here today, and it was actually there, the Sunderland season ticket, but it didn't have a price next to it. It was just still there.
All right.
So I've deleted it again.
Well, the question is then. I mean, firstly, I don't see how that can be done, because I think if you cancel a direct debit yourself, then no one else can reinstate that. But I may be wrong. However, the question is, do you think then that the club has tried to pull a fast one and try and get some revenue in, being a little bit naughty, reinstating them, getting some revenue in, already knowing that if they get hold of that revenue, they'd already stated that there was no refunds. So do we think the club's tried to pull a fast one there? Mad mistake?
I couldn't say. I really couldn't say.
So hang on a sec before you start. Our last wants to say something. Come here. Right.
Go on, Kaz.
Come here.
Here's Karen.
Happy birthday, Terry.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say. They have reinstated the direct debit because I cancelled yours, and when I was on the bank earlier and checked, they'd reinstated it. So,
there you go. There you go.
when I heard you, I thought,
Kaz has just answered our
question.
question.
So yeah, so I don't know if it's going to come out though, because it was.
Hey, I'll tell you what, mind. Hey, that's wrong, that mind.
So, yes, they're being naughty.
Hey, right, so Terry, are they being naughty?
Being naughty to you, of all people.
What is going on here?
Right, so Michael, what do you think? Are they pulling a fast one?
At this point, it's Sunderland, so it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. You know what it is? I tell you what, I want to quickly reference a point Terry made earlier that you said Phil Parkinson was Stuart Donald's puppet. I think you meant to say Jim Rodwell. You know what it is? Like, Jim Rodwell seems to me to be the new Martin Bain. Seems to be someone who's just going to be there.
Watches.
Just drinking expensive espressos at the academy. You know what it is? Like, I think Martin Bain had a relatively difficult job when he was there, but I don't get this impression with Jim Rodwell that he's striking me with any confidence, and he's just to be there to just absorb criticism so Donald doesn't have to take any, and he can just go and take the brunt of the shit. I don't, Jim Rodwell. Honestly, we had one Rodwell who was a snake thieving bastard.
He was on the bench the other night for Sheffield United, so clearly he's fit to play football. Sorry, Phil, to answer your question, it looks like they're pulling the fast one. If that's the case, then piss off a lot of them.
Well, I've got to say, though, it's obviously it's not just with Barclays then, because we don't bank with Barclays, so that could be right across the board, possibly. So
it is kind of sly that, like, I mean, you'd like to think that they can't do that, but clearly there's a loophole where you can do that.
No, they kind of do it, but obviously they probably just try it on. You know what I mean, Dino? I think they kind of do it. If you cancel the direct debit, they kind of like reinstate it. If you know what I mean?
Business world.
Yeah, someone else can't reinstate it. Is how I believe it is to be, but I just think it's shocking PR. I mean, the fact when they did the no refund thing, and then if they've tried to do this, it's going to lose a hell of a lot of people and loyal fans.
With Jim Rodwell,
they're either stupid or they're either stupid or sneaky. One of the two.
With Jim Rodwell, I just felt like I watched that interview, like when he did that apology to the fans that went on the club website. You do get your suspicions now, like when you listen to him speak. What really infuriated me was when he was indicating he didn't understand the passion of the supporters.
Well, that's why then would you appoint someone who doesn't understand the passion?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the point?
Who is this bloke, by the way? Who is this bloke? Like,
you come from Scunthorpe.
Who is Jim Rodwell? Pointless Jim Rodwell. Go away.
Dino, if you want to know who Jim Rodwell is, you see these little puppet strings just dangling from the ceiling, and Stuart Donald's on the top. That's where he is. He's on the stage.
Right, look, listen, before we wrap it up then, I just quickly want to mention about, obviously, the Premier League started yesterday with the football. I don't know if you watched it or not. I watched it. I tried it with the crowd noise and without the crowd noise. And I just want your opinions on what you thought of it. Would you prefer it with the crowd, or do you like the fact that you can hear the players and the manager and stuff like that? Jacob, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, watching it with the crowd noise at times, I just felt was a little bit broken, because in the first half there was a shot that a Villa player took that hit the side netting, and then it was like a sound like you'd hear when a goal goes in. But when Norwood took the free kick for Sheffield United and the Villa goalkeeper clearly crossed the line with his own ball, there was no sound at all. So it's you are going to get that, to be fair. But yeah, it's just what we're going to have to get used to for the future. And like, to be fair, it is better than nothing. Like, I tried watching it without the crowd effects, and it's just like hearing a pin drop. It's just like surreal that the fans are not there at the moment.
Bad mistake? What do you think?
I can't afford Sky Sports, Phil.
Well, you want to get yourself one of, you know, those fire sticks, what you want everybody locked up for. You want to get yourself one of them.
I don't understand technology.
All right.
We'll get Jeff Stelling on the phone for you.
Sean, what do you think? Did you watch it?
I watched the Man City and Arsenal game. It was really strange, but like watching a game with obviously no supporters in the stadium was weird. Like, and mine and Dano's friend put a thing on Twitter saying, was it he had the sounds on, but he didn't want the sound on because you want to hear the keepers giving the defenders grief and stuff. I think it's just strange. I kind of get the hang of it. Like, I mean, this is going to be for the foreseeable, but it's weird, isn't it? I mean, I honestly kind of wait until supporters are back in the ground. Like, that's when, you know, and that's just it's for the safety of everybody. But it's kind of get used to
Not the same, is it?
Michael, what did you think? Sorry, Terry, go on.
I'm just curious, how much do you all pay for Sky Sports?
80 pound a month.
There you go.
Please, tell me, I'll give you my Sky Go login. I'll give you my Sky Go login details.
I'll tell
Anyway,
you what, I don't think Terry's paying for Sky Sports in the near future by the sound of this.
£25 now TV.
No TV.
Dino, did you watch it or not?
I watched both, and to be honest, I don't like not having the fact like where there's no sound, because it just feels like a training match. Like it doesn't feel like it's a competitive game. So I turned it onto the this crowd sound, and I didn't even look at the crowd. It just automatically felt like there was a crowd there. Like I wasn't looking at the crowd.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think with the sound, with the fans and that chanting and all that, I think it's a lot better, because it doesn't feel like a competitive game when you watch it with no sound. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I thought it was brilliant what they did with the sound. Like you say, you realise you're watching the match, you don't really watch a crowd anyway. And I thought the way they did it, they obviously had somebody ready so that if there was a near miss, they hit the button and it was a cheer. And obviously, I thought it was brilliant. I think it's brilliant what they did, and far better than watching it without any crowd noise at all.
Can I just interject one thing?
Come on, Michael, sorry.
Sorry, I was saying, I agree about the crowd noise thing, but I'm just going to say, Terry, if you can't afford Sky Sports, Bournemouth v Crystal Palace, Saturday night, BBC One.
There you go.
Get in!
Right.
Get in.
Oh, by the way,
license on. No.
how bad is it at the start of the season? Goal line technology's not working. How mad is that?
That's a disgrace, man. I mean, it's the Premier League have invested so much money to getting the testing right for when players come into the stadium and they can't even get their own.
Listen.
Well done.
Unbelievable.
Listen.
It was like,
No, hang on a sec, though, right? They've had Hawkeye in. It's the first time in 9,000 attempts that it's failed. And it failed apparently because players were blocking, because players were all around him. And it's the first time it's failed in 9,000 attempts. And I think, because I think it's been brilliant, the Hawkeye thing. And all right, it fails, but it's just one of those freak moments, I think. I reckon.
Yeah, but why is there no VAR? VAR should be brought in to step in to sort those things out.
I thought they were having VAR on.
No.
Right. Well, there should have been VAR, and that would have sorted that out.
That could cost Sheffield United big time.
Listen,
no Champions League.
Look, fellas, we're going to have to wrap it up. Because I've got to get in touch with the bank and sort this direct debit. Listen, we're going to stick this on the channel. So to our subscribers, I hope you enjoyed it. Apologies for not doing it live. We'll get it straight up there, and we will be back next Thursday. Maybe live, maybe not, but we will be back. So we'll see you then. Thanks, lads. Absolutely superb. Thanks very much. We'll see you. Ta-ra.
Cheers.